Hi, I'm Liz Larson with The Art of Frosting. A good friend of mine asked me to do a little frozen themed cake for his little girl. What the picture they gave me was a little stacked cake with the 3 tiers in slightly different colors of blue. So this is my interpretation of it with the candy melt crown. This is really a pretty easy one, very simple steps. Now I'm going to show you how to do the stacking part. It's kind of a review. None of this is new in this cake, but for some of those who want to catch up a little bit or just a refresher, I'm going to show you how to do the steps for a small stacked cake. We're going to do a little bit of snowflakes and this pretty little crown. Pretty simple, so let's get started. So we're going to do this in fast forward, but before we do that, I want to just tell you a couple things. I am working with frozen layers. So I've got my layers here cut and then frozen in the freezer. I put a piece of parchment in between to keep them separated. That way I can work well with them. We want to put the top part that has a little bit of round right down in where there's an indentation in my platter. I'm going to be using some Kahlua syrup. It's a simple syrup. You guys can see how to do this on the Best Chocolate Cake Ever video. But I like to soak my layers in chocolate syrup. I'm using some ganache. Just a thin layer of ganache. And I'm using some cream filling. This one happens to be a rum filling. Again, this whole recipe for this particular combination is in the Best Chocolate Cake Ever. I'm going to spread. I want it about 1/2 inch thick, and I want it to not quite touch the edges. I want to leave a gap there so that it doesn't smush out. So you ready? We'll do it in fast forward. Now, because my layers are a little bit frozen, I want to set it aside just for maybe 10 minutes before I put my skewers in. Once your layers have thawed just a little bit, they thaw very quickly, you want to get your skewers. So these are some fairly thin skewers. These are about an 1/8 of an inch skewer. I'm going to measure again by sticking it down in, pull it back out, and clip. Then I'm going to measure the rest of them off of this. For this cake, it's an 8 inch round. I want 6 skewers. Then we're going to put them down in a circle because we want them to support the next tier. So we don't need them out here. We just need them for really solid support under our next layer. You want to make sure that your cake is nice and square this way and level this way before you put your skewers in. And then we're ready to ice this layer. This cake happens to be 3 colors. And it seems funny that I'm going to show you this, but it's a way that we end up wasting a lot of icing and a lot of time. So what I want to do is I'm going to use liquid color this time because it's actually easier when you're doing a large batch of color. This happens to be Chef Master Hawaiian Blue. And I'm just going to put 2 drops in this one. Next, I'm going to put about 4 to 6 drops because it's also bigger. And then I'm going to put like 8 in this one. Now, I realize that I'm starting with smaller to bigger, but I don't want to end up with more color. I can always add. I can't really take away. So I'm going to go ahead and mix my colors that way, mix them first, so that I know I've got the right color, the right shade before I ever get started. So after I've mixed, I then put a nice light, a nice middle, and a dark, and plenty to ice. Now remember, your cakes are going to be crumb iced in white. So you're not worrying about crumb icing with this. You're worrying about just covering in color. I'm going to start filling my quick icers and blocking my cakes. So now that I'm all iced, my next part is stacking. And I like to use coconut in between my layers. You can use whatever you want in between your layers. You just need something to keep the layers from sticking. So you can use crushed up cookies, you could use nuts, you could even use chocolate chips. I like coconut because it is very easy to manipulate and level. So that's the other thing. You got to make sure that whatever you're using is easy to level. We just want our layers not to stick together. So you want an offset spatula, one of these, and you want to take your layers, spatula on one side, hand on the other, and very gently drop down as close to the center as you can. Now remember, you're supported underneath. So you want to take one of your skewers, these are bamboo skewers, and you want to use the board underneath and just push down where it's needed. And also you're going to level where it's needed. You're going to push it to the center with the board. Now the coconut underneath really does help it move as well. And you're just going to keep moving that until it's in the center. If you can move your cake onto a turntable, I put it on my low one, that's great. You want to take a little measuring and measure all around to make sure you're in the center. Stand back, look at it and turn it. Do everything you can to make sure it's nice and level. Next, I've got a 12-inch long bamboo skewer that's very sharp on one end. And you can see that I'm just tapping and twisting all the way down in to get it through both cardboard layers. It's a little difficult, you want to take your time, but this will definitely keep your cake from falling over. Next, I've got a bag filled with white and the pale blue, and I'm just doing a straight shell border around each of the layers. So we're just prepping to make our little snowflakes, and we just want to make some stars. So you can do 8-pointed, you can do some with longer like this. So just make a bunch. You want to make them different sizes, some small all the way up to big. And then if you want to add in, so you might do things like this, or you can make them loops like this. However you want to do it, just make a bunch of little shapes. And then what we're going to do is turn this over so the black doesn't get on our candy melt snowflakes. So I've got just a parchment here with my candy melt in the blue and the tip cut to just about a 4, just the end off. Candy melts are just white chocolate with a little bit of oil-based food coloring. So this is the brand Wilton Candy Melt, but you can just do white chocolate and add your own oil-based color, or you can do this in royal icing as well. So we're just going to trace our lines. I'm going to give these a knob at each end. Come back in and just make some swirls as well. So we can put those on big and small swirls. And then you want to come in and make some in white as well. So another fun thing you can add is some edible glitter. So I have some here that's just a darker color than our candy melt, and you can put a little bit of that on. You don't want to put it on all of them, but maybe just a few, just to add one more dimension of color. Last, we want to make our crown. This is about 4 by about 8. You can make it a little bigger or a little smaller. A little bigger, you might run into trouble with it falling, but I found something that I can drape it over. Once my candy melt is on here, I need to shape it. And this is right about the size of my 3-inch pan. So if you can find something that you can drape over like that, that would be perfect. If you fold it in the middle, you can kind of get the idea of the center, so you can keep it straight. And then you just want to come in with your design. Once you've got your design down, just flip it over. Now I just did something freehand. You can definitely print something offline, print a design, and take a lot more time. You can do all kinds of things. I just did something quickly because I know the basic design that I want. First I want to come in and lay out my outer edges, and next I want to come back in and just fill in. So I put a nice line in there and then bring my bag back down in and just blend. So I let my candy melt be pretty thick. You can thin it down if you want to a little bit and have it be less thin. I wanted my crown to be a little bit textured. I'm going to come back in and add some pearl dust. Another fun thing you can get at the craft store. They all seem to have it in the cake department. It'll make it nice and shiny. And then I want to come back in and add some pearls as well. You want to make 2 or 3 of these because they will break. So while this is still pliable but not runny, you want to really gently move it on to whatever you picked to round and prop it up against something and let that sit. Probably going to need to let it sit for about 20 minutes. Once our snowflakes have hardened, you just want to arrange them delicately. Snowflakes and swirls. Have a good arrangement of small and big. And you want to be careful not to overload your cake. This is a small cake and we don't want to overwhelm our design. We want to turn it around back and just add a couple. Not too many, you don't want to compete with the front, but you want to add just a bit. And don't forget the base of your cake. The base of your cake needs a little bit of something there too. The last bit is a tough part, so I've pulled my crown out of the freezer and you just want to let it drop off and peel. So you want to peel inward very, very delicately. Now remember, you want to have 2, 3, maybe even 4 of these. You want to gently place it on the top of the cake. Make sure it's in there really good. I ended up putting just a few more little snowflakes up the back just to kind of fill in behind the crown. And just a few touches here and there. You know me, more is more. So add as few or as many of the little snowflakes and the pearls as you like. This is a great way to do a really fairly small cake that's stacked. It looks big, you get the idea of a stacked cake, but you don't have so many servings and it's not giant. This one's actually pretty easy to do, really beginner level. The hardest parts are the crown. You could do this much more simply if you wanted, or much more elaborate. So remember, you can find me at Facebook at The Art of Frosting, where decorators just like you from all around the world are sharing their work. You can find me at www.theartoffrosting.blogspot.com, where you can find a full catalog of my work, Leah's work, and work from all around the world. Just search what you're looking for and you can find a design for your needs. So that's it for now. Talk to you guys again soon. Bye.